That's why I want to talk about energy as leverage today. Europe has lived through a hard lesson. When Russia invaded Ukraine, decades of energy assumptions collapsed almost overnight. Governments across Europe had to secure supply quickly, and Germany moved with urgency. Urgency, I might add, with great humility that Canadians can learn from. You built LNG terminals in record speed. Dr. Berndt was telling me earlier that he walked through the timeline. February 24th, 2022, the invasion happened. I think it was his anniversary with your wife, wasn't it? So it wasn't as romantic a day as it might have otherwise been. Putin didn't check with you if it was the right day to do that. So he not only ruined world peace, he ruined the good doctor's anniversary, but he didn't stop Germans from acting. By May, you had issued a permit and construction was underway for an LNG import terminal to source natural gas from Qatar and the United States. Contracts were signed, supply lines were drawn. And within 194 days, your incredible engineers, architects, and workers had completed the entire project. This is a magnificent achievement. I did share with the good doctor that in Canada, it took 14 years to provide a permit for an LNG liquefaction plant in British Columbia, by contrast. So we have a lot to learn from you on how to move quickly and get things done. But the story, well, some of you are chuckling, so maybe there's some things that you also want to improve on. So let us improve together. There is a serious need, though, for both of us to act more quickly, because the story does not end there with your construction triumph. Because while you did sign, and I don't blame you for signing, a supply agreement with Qatar, a country that is located in a volatile region of the world, just the other day, the Qatari LNG plant was struck with a drone from Iran, limiting its export capability and driving up the price of natural gas by 25% almost immediately. That will hit industry and consumers here with higher prices. But there is an enormous opportunity, because Canadian natural gas right now is trading at $1.25 per million metric British thermal units. In Europe, it's trading at $14.80. To put it into perspective, we could increase our price in Canada by 400%, and you would be paying half of what you're paying now. In other words, we could be making a lot more, and you could be paying a lot less if we could get our gas to your import terminals. In 2022, Chancellor Scholz asked Canada's Prime Minister whether Canadian LNG could play a major role in replacing natural gas. The answer he received was that there was no strong business case. 3 months later, Germany signed the deal with Qatar, and the rest is history. We as Canadians have learned from that history. We as Canadians are determined not to make that mistake again. We as Canadians are going to be moving with record speed to permit liquefaction facilities to supply the world. And we have enormous advantages. To put it into context, it takes 11 days to ship from Eastern Canada to Europe, 20 days from the U.S. Gulf Coast. So we have half the shipping time. And what does it take to liquefy natural gas? Compression and cold weather. What is Canada's #1 natural resource? Cold weather. It is actually 25% cheaper to liquefy gas in Canada than it is to liquefy it in Qatar or the U.S. Gulf Coast, because Mother Nature takes much of the heat out of that gas, so we don't have to supply electricity to do so. In other words, we can do it cheaper, cleaner, and faster than our American friends, as long as we learn to get out of our own way. Free nations should not have to rely on less stable suppliers when a trusted ally sits on abundant reserves. Canada can be your supplier. We will earn that role. Our resource base is even larger than our competitors. Vast offshore gas fields off the coast of Newfoundland, which are automatic byproducts of existing oil production, can be put on compression and cooling vessels to liquefy and ship across the ocean. Canada can supply energy produced under some of the highest environmental and labor standards in the world from a country backed up by the rule of law and a commitment to the transatlantic security alliance. But resources under the ground do not strengthen alliances. They must be developed, transported, and exported. That means permitting pipelines, approving LNG plants, and building the infrastructure that connects demand with supply. It means moving beyond memorandums of understanding toward real exports of real products. For example, in 2022, we signed a hydrogen deal with Germany, and it was to deliver in 2025. Of course, not yet a single tablespoon of hydrogen has traveled in a ship for your use. My future government is going to take the words of Elvis Presley, a little less conversation, a little more action, please, in getting the job done. Our government will use, my government will use, the constitutional and legal powers necessary to pre-permit right-of-ways for pipelines and LNG liquefaction terminals. We will override bureaucracies and other levels of government if needed to get projects approved and under construction. We will also move to 6-month permitting times for major projects like LNG. We will commit all of this in a binding agreement with willing European allies to guarantee you the energy you need from a friend you can trust. This will make us stronger at home and unbreakable abroad.